You ain't got a cheating heart. Oh, your love is true. You just gotta cheat every other part. Oh, it's gonna love this time. Oh, it's one of those times. Oh, that woman, she don't mean a thing. She just has a fire in a heart so cold. One touch, lost control. Oh, it's gonna last time. Oh, it's one of those times.
We've got too much to do today.
Oh, I can't admit sometimes a man is wrong. Oh, she took 5 sips. Oh, she was gone. Oh, it's one of those times. Oh, it's one of those times. Thank you.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right. Ow. We're getting a little feedback off the mic. Don't know why. Got to work on that. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Cheer, here with you today on No Soundbites Allowed. Obviously brought to you on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We're always happy to be here with you. And, of course, we have with us our very, very good friend, our co-host on the show, none other than John the Intern, who is, whoops, there he is. We lost him for a second. Right there he is. John the Intern with his wonderful MAGA hat, loving USA, and Land That I Love towel.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we have a lot on this show today, a lot of things that we're going to be covering. So I want you all to be with us on all of this. And I don't know why we're getting a lot of feedback here. We apologize for that. It happens sometimes. But that being said, let's dive right into this. First thing, I think it was very apt. The band you heard there first is called Adam Ate the Apple. They're a local band in the southern tier of New York. Good friends of ours. We enjoy having them. Their videos on here. The song, it's one of those times. Oh boy, this is the time. What a crazy time that's going on. We just had the end of the session for New York State for the lawmakers and the state legislature. And it's just crazy, some of the bills that they've passed. We're going to be talking about that. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has lost her mind once again, and we're going to address that. I mean, it's just ridiculous where she's going, and I don't understand how people take her seriously. And I know she was on 60 Minutes yesterday in a very loving piece by Anderson Cooper, but let's really talk about what this woman, he totally avoided any of the issues that are in question with her, and they really need to be addressed. But going beyond that, there's also the question of what's going on with Anthony Brindisi, who is a member of Congress, the New York 22nd District Representative. And it's kind of sad what he's doing in taking credit for things that have absolutely nothing to do with him and are really useless. But we want to address all of that, plus breaking news that's going on right now in our embassy in Brussels. So that's a lot. And we're going to slip in there decriminalization of marijuana. We're going to slip in there what's going on with Elizabeth Warren and refunds from the IRS to gay couples and reparations. Believe it or not, we're going to get all of that into the show. That is a ton of stuff. So we're going to be going kind of fast, but bear with us. And by the way, if you are in the Binghamton area, please drop by our friends over at the Belmar Pub or over at the Park Diner. They're both great establishments, good food, good drinks, great service. I enjoy them. That is not a paid advertisement. That's something that I truly believe. And I believe that, John, the intern, what do you think of them?
They're both really good. Like I said, I always go to the Park Diner and I always enjoy the food.
Okay. And move the hat out the way. We got the hat in the way for some reason. Okay. And so let's get started with a few things. Let's start right off the top. The shame of the show. As you know, we like to identify Game of Thrones shame. Game of Thrones shame on Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, otherwise known as AOC. I don't know what's wrong with this woman, but Game of Thrones shame on her about trying to compare concentration camps where millions of Jewish individuals, where millions of people were killed wholesale, an attempted genocide of several. We're talking about Jews, gypsies, people who are black, basically any non-Aryan. They were trying to kill everyone. And somehow she considers that the same thing as a detention center for illegal aliens breaking into the United States. We're going to talk a lot more about that. But she gets this week's Game of Thrones shame. And I suppose I should also mention why we weren't around for a week. Well, there's been a lot going on. As you know, I like to try and keep the lights on, like to have the show going. And if you're not donating, well, that means I have to work. I work a 9 to 5, plus doing about 6 hours, 8 hours of research every day to bring this program when we can. So my schedule has changed, 9 to 5. And so I have to work this on my days off. This is what I do. So there is no day off. But no worries. Let's continue. So let's start off with Representative Anthony Brindisi. And John the intern, you know about him, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's my representative.
Okay. Does he represent you well?
No.
Okay. Why do you say that?
First off, he doesn't listen to his constituents. He hasn't passed really any bills at all. He's pretty much dead in the water. And
okay. Let me answer. Well, first of all, he did pass an amendment, which was exactly 7 words long, which I addressed in February, had an article on that. But he also did pass one bill through the House, which was to get a report for veterans. That's it. He got a report through the House. That's it. So some people think that's very important. Most people don't. His work on Spectrum and trying to fix people's internet bill services and cable bills has gone nowhere, has no support whatsoever. But did you know that on the 20th of June, he took credit for having millions of dollars given to Binghamton University? You're a student at Binghamton University.
I am, yep.
Okay. Did you know that he's responsible for giving millions of dollars to Binghamton University, about $10 million?
I had no idea. Actually, no.
Okay.
Not until you told me.
Okay. Well, here's something interesting about that. You know why you didn't know that he did that?
Why?
Because he didn't.
Sounds about right.
And now let me clarify what I mean by that, because a lot of people are going to say, Mike, how can you say that? There was just an article on the screen, and just for people who are listening to the audio podcast of this, Anthony Brindisi on yours centralnewyorknews.com article is saying Representative Brindisi secures Binghamton University project. Now, if you look into that story, and if you look at the bill itself, which I'm bringing up right now, which is HR 2740, in the first paragraph of the article and in the bill itself, it tells you this is not Anthony Brindisi's bill. He did not create it. He did not co-sponsor it. There was one co-sponsor to the bill. That was Representative Rosa DeLauro out of Connecticut, and she's in the 3rd District of Connecticut, and a Democrat. Anthony Brindisi is nowhere to be seen on this. The bill came out May 15th. So he's had over a month to jump on board with this, to back this bill, which is a basic appropriations bill. There is nothing different about this bill than any of the spending bills that the government does, covering everything. He didn't back it. He wasn't involved in it. It had nothing to do with him. He voted for it, as did every single Democrat. It was a partisan bill that passed the House. All Democrats voted for it. All but one, I believe, voted for it. So it's just a partisan yes man bill. And he's trying to take credit for putting in millions of dollars of tax money for this. He didn't do anything. And see, that's the thing that upsets me. You know, that's the thing that really upsets me, is when politicians go around and they're just taking credit for something they had nothing to do with.
I imagine when I see him on my campus, because he campaigns constantly on my campus, and that's how he got elected, I imagine he's going to be toting this around left and right.
And the sad thing is that no one's actually going to look at the bill, HR 2740, and realize he had nothing to do with it. It isn't his bill. He didn't back it. He didn't co-sponsor it. It's got nothing to do with him.
No.
He voted along with over approximately 200 other members of Congress and passed the bill. And that's like me saying that, well, I'm responsible for passing the Second Amendment. No, it was already done. I can't take credit for something that were the efforts of other people. I just happen to benefit from it. He's benefiting from the work someone else did, someone who actually has connections and friends in Congress, passed the bill, and he happens to be riding on their coattails. That's not doing your job in Congress. You know what is doing your job in Congress, Representative Brindisi? People confident in the bill. If he got all the members of Congress who are ex-military to back the bill, that would be about 50, 65 members of Congress who obviously support the VA. And if they were backing the bill, I would say that it has a high chance of being passed. And it would show some confidence in that they believe in Anthony Brindisi as a member of Congress. But in fact, they had nothing to do with this. They didn't touch this bill because it's just a report. That's all it is. It doesn't do anything to help veterans. So that's why they most likely, I believe, didn't touch this bill, because it does nothing. It is useless, virtually useless. And therefore, when you can't get veterans of the military, like Dan Crenshaw, who has been injured and is a huge advocate of the VA and our veterans and our active military, and if he won't sign on to the bill, then I have to say something is either wrong with the bill, or there's something wrong with Anthony Brindisi that he can't sell helping veterans to a veteran who is a member of Congress alongside him. Something to think about. But we can't stay on there because, like I said, we have a lot of things to talk about. But tell me, John, does this make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And you just compare this to our previous congresswoman representing our district, and there's such a divide between the two, and it's kind of disappointing to see him just struggling.
Well, I can compare him to, in this Congress, I can compare him to another Democrat in New York, which has an adjacent district, which is Anthony Delgado, who I don't agree with either on almost anything, the former rapper Anthony Delgado, because he was, for people who don't know, Anthony Delgado, who is the representative of the New York 19th, he was a rapper, and I don't agree with him on a lot, and he gets 15, 20 people, 30 people that are supporting his bills, which means he's being effective. People in Congress actually want to talk to him and work with him. And this is another, and he's a freshman. He's a guy who's never been in government in his life. Anthony Brindisi has spent most of his adult life as a member of, a good part of it, as a member of government, and he can't get anything done. And again, I go back to Dan Crenshaw. Mm-hmm. This is a veteran who's been injured. He goes to the VA. He's a strong advocate of veterans and the armed forces, and he won't touch Anthony Brindisi's veterans bill. That tells me there's something wrong. I mean, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yet he wants to say that he's responsible for millions of dollars coming to my district, to Binghamton University, and he had nothing to do with it. You know what? That's wrong. The headline that he's touting there is wrong because it's misleading. It's not true. But let's get to something important. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or, well, I can't even say she's important, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Did you hear the latest thing about her?
I did, yes.
Okay. So give us a summary real quick.
She compared our situation at the border to concentration camps.
Okay, we're talking about the southern border.
Yeah.
And so she's talking about detention centers. Mm-hmm. And just so people can know what we're talking about here, I want you to see. She is under fire. This is an article that came from Real Clear Politics on June, I believe it was June 21st. And it's AOC under fire for insane Holocaust comparison, written by Adriana Cohen. And essentially, and it starts off, I think it starts off very strong, and I'll read that to you. I don't have my glasses, so bear with me, folks. No. The article starts off, quote, "No, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, U.S. detention centers being used as a temporary holding facilities for thousands of migrants violating U.S. Customs and Immigration's laws at the southern border are not concentration camps like ones used by Nazis during the Holocaust. Far from it." So let's be very clear here. It's real straightforward. I don't think this is a hard thing to figure out. That if concentration camps, as I said before, millions of people, millions, were killed in concentration camps. Jews, gypsies, all the undesirables of the Nazi regime. When you make a comparison to one of the worst, most despicable forms of government that has existed on the face of the earth, responsible for tens of millions of people being killed, you need to make sure you got it right. That this is a serious issue. I think that's a fair thing to say. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Absolutely.
And she's saying that, well, detention centers were people who have broken into the United States, violated our laws, and have been captured or detained and held until they are processed which then normally means they get to enter our country still illegally, and they get to roam around. And, you see places like Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco rejecting them from coming to California into their districts, but they want them to go after everyone else's district, but they're still illegal. These people are fine. They're healthy, well, as healthy as you can be after traveling 1,200 miles or more, 2,500 miles, across sometimes several countries to go through our desert without food, without water, without proper clothing, hauling children with you. They're as healthy as can be in that case. Then, I don't think that's called a concentration camp. And I should add, you did an article on this. Mm-hmm. Many of these countries they're escaping from, like Venezuela, there's something going on. What disease is that in Venezuela?
Measles and mumps.
Measles and mumps. In 1 year have gone up, how many cases?
Pretty much completely. I mean, Brazil has completely gone up from 0 cases to like 1,000 or...
No, I think your article quoted 10,000 cases in Brazil and 6,500 cases in Venezuela, where most of the latest 15,000 number caravans have been coming up from, traveling 2,500 miles to go through California's wall and to get into the United States. And they get detained so that they can be sure that they're not spreading disease, which they have, and there has been on that. But we did do that in a previous episode. So how does she come up and say this is a concentration camp?
I have no clue. It's like every week she feels the need to say something controversial to try to get into the headlines and stay relevant.
Wasn't there some group that took her on about this?
It was the Holocaust Museum itself.
The Holocaust Museum itself. Holocaust survivor invited her to go to a concentration camp to learn about the Holocaust so that she doesn't make these stupid, inane statements, and she denied it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. And I know you got the Twitter, so you can see it a lot faster than I can. But
yeah.
I remember seeing that article, and she's denied it. She doesn't want to go. I believe that was reported by the Daily Wire. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
I believe so. Let me pull up the Daily Wire.
If I'm getting it wrong, please let me know.
Absolutely.
Because we try to make sure. But I believe the article is from the Daily Wire that she was invited to go to the concentration camp to actually see what a concentration camp is versus a luxury tent with full power, with bathroom facilities. That's, it's more comfortable than my house and most people's houses. And it's, sanitary. And people have room and space. And they take up so much space that we have to keep expanding them because we have record levels of illegal aliens breaking into our country. And let's get this right. They're not migrants. They are illegal aliens. That is the proper legal term. They are alien to the United States. They are breaking our law, entering our country. This is an illegal alien entry. This is breaking the law. And we treat them for breaking our law. We give them a proper detention, health care, and release them into our nation. There's a meme that's on Facebook, which I didn't get a chance to get the image, but it was a political cartoon by one of the more famous people that says, if this is a concentration camp, the detention centers in the United States, then this is the first time in the history of the world that people are breaking into concentration camps rather than trying to get out. Because we have, 75,000 a month? Is that right? Mm-hmm. 75,000 a month trying to enter the United States illegally and being caught and put into detention centers. and they keep coming. If it's a concentration camp, it must be the best one you've ever seen. And this is why when she says something stupid, and this is stupid, that there is comparing a detention center to a concentration camp, that's why she gets the Game of Thrones shame. That's why she is out of her mind. She is stupid, and she is sensationalizing this. She is trying to make this emotional, to drive people to just get off to get emotional and not think, what is she actually saying and what kind of damage she is doing. Think about every single illegal. If you thought that if you got caught, I'm going to, okay.
Specifically invited her out to Poland and show her around, to show her all the atrocities and what actually happened.
I think the people of Poland would have a very clear idea of what a concentration camp is. Mm-hmm. And if they thought it was at all correct, they would be supporting that.
Yeah.
It's pretty safe to say. So, okay, and I stand corrected. I want to make sure I got it right. That's why I asked you to double check.
Yep.
I knew I saw the story, but I didn't remember the story. But that's why we check these things, to make sure we're giving you the most accurate information. You may not agree, but this is how we're getting to this. And I have to tell you, if you go down the line, Anthony Brindisi, he didn't do the bill. I showed you the bill. You can look it up on congress.gov yourself. He has nothing to do with it. He doesn't deserve credit for it. Taking credit for someone else's work, that's fraud. But in my opinion, that's fraud. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying that a detention center is a concentration camp, that's not only fraudulent, that is disrespectful. And more importantly, or equally as importantly, is this could cause danger. With those border agents, anyone, ICE, and all the other law enforcement officials, when they try and detain these people, if they're getting the message that they're going to be killed for entering the United States, that means that they will defend themselves, as anyone would, because you don't want to get killed. No one wants to go to a concentration camp where they would be killed, and therefore they're going to fight, and that means they're going to endanger lives. And if any border agent is harmed because of what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is saying and hyping up the tensions at the border, then she should be held legally liable, in my opinion. What do you think?
I completely agree, because her words are having an impact. People are, threatening ICE and everything like that, calling for online specifically. I know Steven Crowder, the comedian, did a video where he confronted someone who called for death threats not only against him, but ICE. And so these things are happening. I mean, these people are trying to get agents trying to protect our country injured.
Yeah, it was just a year ago that someone doxed the members of ICE and released all of their, and border agents, and released their addresses, their names, where their families could be reached to be able to harm them. So let's not forget, that was about a year, 2 years ago. I forget the exact date. So this is part of that dangerous mentality out there. And people say, well, Alexandria Ocasio, she's not so bad. This is dangerous. It's consequences. These are dominoes, folks. And when you push one of these dominoes, they keep falling. And I know no one's really talking about, gee, well, what's so bad about that? Yes, it's bad to compare it to Nazis. It's bad because it endangers people's lives. When people rightly would fight against going to a concentration camp, which I would defend every day. But if you think you're going to a concentration camp, I say it again for the third time, people will defend themselves if they believe that's what the case is, because they are afraid of getting killed, which means they're going to fight our law enforcement agents who do everything they can to take these people in peaceably, to give them better health care, and to save them from doing a 2,500-mile trek through desert and countries without food, clothing, jobs, anything, and try and save their lives with proper health care, which sometimes doesn't work because children die in these events because of what their parents have subjected them to, which is bad parenting, which I think Democrats are against, right? Mm-hmm. They're against that, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't seem to be against it when it's an illegal alien. It's okay to take your kid 2,500 miles without food or clothing, mostly walking, and run them across a desert. That's okay because they're illegal aliens, so they can do that. But if you try and take your kid, not feed them for a day, don't give them proper clothing for a day, you're going to be in trouble, and the police will try and arrest you because Democrats hate that. This is what inflames me, folks. It leaves me livid. But I want to keep going, okay? We don't have a lot of time, and we're trying to cover a lot of subjects, and we're going to be here Wednesday, and we got a lot going on there. I'm going to tell you about that in a second. But I do want to check, and please double check John the intern. Mm-hmm. What is the latest on Belgium? Now, while John is checking that, folks, just to give you a quick update on this, it's breaking news. It happened about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. We became aware that, and it's being reported, in Belgium, a man has been charged for trying to plan a terror attack in Brussels against the U.S. Embassy. He is currently denying that he in fact did this. Brussels is saying, and Belgium is saying, that he did in fact do this, and it's kind of up in the air on whether or not what the status of this is. It's still a breaking story. There's still a lot more news to come out about this, so no one is exactly sure where it stands at this moment. Further details have not come out yet, but it is reported that he's been spotted acting very suspiciously around the embassy, that there is evidence linking him to the potential of a terror plot. This has been reported by the Daily Mail in the UK, BBC, most of the major news media. Everyone's waiting to see what's happening with that. I'm scared. And it could be, and again, this is a reaction around the world, when you hear these individuals who are saying, America's horrible, America's terrible. We're hearing Democrats saying that our government is bad. When we hear progressives, like the progressive leaders of tomorrow, when we hear people like Citizen Action and Indivisible New York, when they denounce our own nation, radicals around the world feed off that and decide that they're going to attack innocent United States citizens and endanger their lives. These things are connected. They're all part of the same dominoes, and we need to be aware of that. We need to hold them accountable for what they are saying because it affects people badly. But we're going to take a quick break, then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about everything else. So much more to go. Okay, we'll be back in a second. folks, we are back. That's right. Now, I want to first say thank you for being with us, and please do remember that if you are in the Binghamton area, our friends, the Belmar Pub, the Park Diner, they want to see you there. We want you to be there and enjoy the good food, the good drinks, the great service, because you know what? To be honest, Binghamton area is not the economic hub of New York. So please drop by our friends. It's not a paid advertisement. Drop by them and say hello and enjoy a good time if you're in the Southern Tier region, because it helps them, it helps the community, and I think they're worth it. So that's a good thing. So as we promised, we've got a lot more to go. We're going to be talking about legalization of marijuana. We're going to be talking about, and I'm just trying to check my notes, the anti-carbon law of New York State, which is absolutely ridiculous. We're going to be talking a little bit about Elizabeth Warren. And most of all, we want to also mention to you, on Wednesday, there at 9 p.m., there is the live debate of the Democratic candidates for the 2020 election. And on the first night, it's going to be... Oh, you didn't look it up?
No, I don't have the times up. And I'm also very slow because I am using my cell phone to do all this, so...
Okay. Just so you know, that's the intern, John the intern, who's staying right on top of things, knowing that this is what we were going to go into. So he's prepped here. This is why he's the intern. He's learning. It's okay.
Yeah.
So pull that up when you can. But on Wednesday, we're going to be there's the debate, and we are going to do a live stream on our YouTube channel, MV Consulting Inc. And if you know what, if you think that we should change the channel name from the corporate to No Soundbites Allowed, let us know. If we get enough people who say yes, we'll change it. But we're going to be doing a live stream on YouTube, commenting and fact-checking as the debate goes on live. I believe it's Elizabeth Warren is on day one, and Cory Booker, and Robert Beto O'Rourke, the fake Hispanic.
De Blasio is.
Oh, and Bill de Blasio. Oh, boy. You know, you got to love it. We're going to have on stage, basically, Elizabeth Warren, who's in third place with approximately 12% nationally. Last I checked, roughly about 12%. And then everyone else who's at like point something percent.
Yeah.
No. Got to be fair. Beto's at about 3%, and Cory Booker's at 2.3%. And then everyone else is at like 0.4 or less.
Pretty much.
If I'm wrong.
Liberal state.
Not that anyone voted for that. Not that anyone else mean that we would replace California as the most in-debt state in the nation, that we would have more people homeless and running around defecating on public streets than is happening in California at this moment, which, you know, they own the title of the most human defecation on city streets in the nation. It's a dubious title, but, you know, California has it, and good job, Nancy Pelosi, Governor. You guys are great. Homeless in LA. And that's just in one city. You guys are doing a great job. That progressivism, it's working so well. That democratic socialism, wow. I didn't know you could be so homeless and so unsanitary all at the same time. Actually, I did. It's called socialism and communism, and it happens all the time. But, you know, I'm not going to focus on that. So let's go back to New York. So in New York, our ever so wonderful Führer, and again, okay, that's an overstatement. I've gone too far.
King's a better
King
word.
Cuomo, King Cuomo, as he would like to imagine himself, decided the New York State legislature, all run by only Democrats, as part of their continued wish list of 2019, since they took control of all levels of state government, they decided to pass an anti-carbon law. Now, this is an opinion piece in the New York Post. It was written on the 20th of June. But basically, some of the things that we have to take into account here, again, is the dominoes that will be falling. New York State wants to get rid of 0.4% of the global warming gases in the world. By the way, I'm going to ask John the intern, do you think that 0.4% of all the global gases in the world, would that stop climate change?
I think liberals would like to believe so, but I don't think it's going to make a dent at all. And I think it's pretty humorous in a way that they think it's going to stop pretty much global warming. You know, we're going to save the polar bears with, what's the number?
0.4%. This is assuming that New York State does exactly what Cuomo has dictated, what the New York State legislature has dictated, and we basically bankrupt the state, and we basically throw up wind farms everywhere. We put up solar panels everywhere, and if we did this, it's a small step towards Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. If we did this, 0.4% of the world's greenhouse gases would be stopped, which doesn't make up even some of the countries in Africa, but the leading polluters in the world, China, India, and again, 2/3 of Africa, could care less.
And I think with more wind farms, I find it funny because wind farms are known to kill birds, and I thought, you know, the progressive wing really cared about, you know, environmentalism and animals. Clearly not.
Not in Cortland County. And by the way, when I ran for Congress in 2013, 2014, and I remember speaking with constituents in Cortland County in 2013, 2014, and they were talking about the eagles and so many birds being killed by, guess what? Wind farms.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was in 2013, before we even got to today. But they're going to be putting them just off of Long Island. There's your perfect, beautiful skyline of the ocean. Wind farms in the middle of the ocean. Here's something you didn't know. Did you know that it would take about this new law from New York is going to add 900 wind turbines?
Okay. That's a lot.
Yes. And that's not including how many solar farms we'd have to create. But did you know what it's going to cost?
How much per wind turbine?
Well, I can tell you for the total.
That's what I'm trying to go for, yeah.
$4.3 billion. No, it doesn't stop there. Because you have to maintain them. They're in the ocean. Salt water, storms, winters. You know, we are in New York, northeast of America. There's going to be some damage, wear and tear all the way. And it costs approximately $1 billion a year.
So how much does New York State bring in alone on taxes?
We're in debt.
Yeah.
We're in massive debt.
Already.
I believe we're at $181 million in debt.
Right.
No, or was it billion? $1 billion.
Probably billion.
$1 billion. $181 billion in debt at this time. And that's just growing.
And with this policy, it's just going to put us...
Another $1 billion a year. Besides the $4.3 billion just for the wind farms, not including the solar farms. In total, according to an estimate, and again, this is an estimate, you can look at the article for yourself. Oops, wrong one. Hang on. This is by the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act is the name of the bill. The organization that is speaking about this is, I forget. And I forget where the estimate's coming from. But the article, in case you want to look it up, New York's new anti-carbon law won't dent climate change, could ruin the state. Ken Giardin is the one who wrote it. It was on June 20th for those who are listening on the audio. And this is an opinion, and they are an environmentalist organization. So do take that into account. But these numbers match numbers that have been published by every organization out there, and no one is taking into account, again, dominoes. Yeah, you build the wind farms, you build the solar farms, and guess what? That has a cost. By the way, nobody, in polls constantly done across the nation and in New York State, say nobody wants to have a solar farm in their backyard. Did you know that?
No, I didn't actually.
Would you like to have a solar farm in your backyard?
No.
Okay. Did you know that we have to put in new transmission lines for all the solar farms and the wind tunnels?
I did not, no.
Yeah. And would you like to have a new transmission line covering your backyard?
Not even close, no.
Okay. Guess what? No one else does either. And that's one of the big problems, because all the eco-terrorists, and that would also mean to put in the new transmission lines, you have to destroy some of the forest and some of the wildlife and the environment to put in those lines and to maintain those lines. You have to destroy the ecology. Kind of goes against that whole eco
vibe that the progressives seem to try to pander to a lot of the times. I mean,
so no one's thinking about that.
But they're going to save the polar bears with this. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah, they're going to say 0.4% is going to save the polar bears because China, India, and 2/3 of Africa really care. They really care about this. That's why they're the largest emitters in the world, and the United States is the largest decrease in greenhouse gases in the world, and the next closest country is 1/6 what America does, and that happens to be Britain. Don't believe me? Look it up. We've already covered it in different shows, but yeah, that's a fact. That is a fact. So much for that. But let's move on, because we have more in New York. New York is such a great country, great state, and these ideas that they're putting out there, you're going to see them on the national stage, and I'm sure you're going to be excited about this. So let's talk about decriminalizing marijuana. Yes, New York lawmakers passed the bill to decriminalize marijuana. So I'm going to go straight to you here. Mm-hmm. And John the intern, let me ask you, do you think any of you're a student at BU, you're younger than me by many decades. Let me ask you, is this something that you've heard friends say, hey, it's a good idea that they want this?
I have, and as you know, I'm writing an article currently about the dangers of it, but it is something college kids care about, but I don't think it's the primary issue. I think they're kind of just like, it's an issue to them personally that they're just like, now I can smoke weed legally instead of illegally.
Here's something. You just mentioned something that's really important that I don't see being addressed anywhere in the news media. You just said, now marijuana is legal. Is that the consensus at, say, Binghamton University amongst millennials and such? Yeah,
I would say so. Now they're like, oh boy, it's not going to change very much, I don't think, because these people who already smoke weed are just going to continue smoking weed. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it's going to affect very much.
What if I told you something, that decriminalization does not equal legalization?
I think you'd have to tell all the stoners at BU that first. But
well, first of all, let me ask this and clarify. Do you know what the difference is between decriminalizing and legalizing is?
Can you explain?
No, seriously, do you know?
Vaguely, because I have taken a couple law classes.
Okay, vaguely, what do you think it means?
Probably decriminalizing means it's no longer a crime, but it'd be lesser crime probably.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Decriminalize means that the punishment for the crime has been minimalized.
Right.
So we're decreasing the component of not retribution, of penalty. Mm-hmm. We're reducing the penalty, but it's still a crime. Mm-hmm. Legalization means there is no crime. Mm-hmm. So you can't be penalized. Now, the difference isn't subtle, because you can still be arrested for possession of marijuana. You can still, the fine at $50 for under an ounce, the fine for $200 because you have between an ounce and 2 ounces still applies. That's the amount that they're decriminalizing. They're reducing the penalty on. If you have 2 ounces or less of marijuana in your possession, you still will be fined, which means you still get a drug offense on your official record. You have still been officially arrested. You still officially are being punished. You still are going to be reprimanded. And that means that if you have a drug offense, and here's something every millennial should really pay attention to, people who are going for jobs, you should pay attention to this. If you are arrested for this, then it shows you have a drug offense on your record. And if you're a student going for student aid, you will be denied. In most cases, as I understand, you will be denied. If you are looking for a student loan, you can be denied. This still counts. If you're an immigrant, a legal immigrant in the United States, and you have these drug offenses on you, even though it is decriminalized, if you have 2 of them, you can be deported. If you leave the United States, even with 1, you can be denied entry back into the United States because you have committed a drug offense. This is, I had a brief conversation with an attorney about this who deals with this. This is my best understanding of the law. Haven't had a chance to have a deep conversation yet, but I believe this is legally accurate. I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is this is absolutely true. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. And I think it's funny because I know a lot of people who I know on campus, and school's out for the semester, they're texting me. They're like, oh man, weed's decriminalized, and they're sending me all these articles. They're like, I can't wait to, smoke or, anything like that. And I don't think they realize the consequences are still there.
Yeah, they are still there.
And it's not being discussed. I mean, it's all these headlines that are like passing to decriminalize, and no one's making the distinction. There's a difference.
And there's a big difference. There's a big difference. And this is going to be a problem for people because you're still going to, and I think they're going to find a lot more students, a lot more millennials who are going to go for job interviews, that are going to go for careers, and they're going to go to just student aid. And they're going to find out, oh, I have this drug offense. It's still with me. It's on my record for life. It is not expunged. And you're going to still be getting a penalty for that because it's decriminalized, not legalized. The difference is substantial. And I think that the Democrats are playing on that, using those words like as if they mean the same thing legally, which they don't. And they're trying to get votes. Aren't we such great guys? We decriminalize this, even though you can still be punished for the rest of your life because you committed a crime. It's still a crime.
They know what they're doing, yeah.
It's funny. And then I guarantee you they're going to blame Republicans for the fact that it's still a crime.
Oh, absolutely.
You're being punished, even though we said we've got rid of it and it's all good and you can go out and smoke your brains out and you'll be able to have car accidents now because it's okay to be under the influence of a drug, a mind-altering drug, and drive and kill people, like often happens, like we saw here in our Broome County with the Stantz family. And they're going to be okay for it. Democrats are all happy about that until someone dies, and then they're going to blame Republicans because, we're the bad guys. Because it's still crime. I just disagree with that. Okay, we're running out of time. We'll probably do a little bit extra in a separate segment, but that you won't see live, but we're going to probably tape a little bit more because I want to talk about Elizabeth Warren. I want to talk about what we're going to see on the stage on Wednesday and what we're going to be talking about live stream.
That starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
9 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And so she's out of her mind. Her and Bernie Sanders are out of their minds, in my opinion. Bernie Sanders wants to wipe out student loans, which is fine, except the problem is who's paying for that? It's over $1 trillion. Who's paying for that? The students get to, no more student loan, fantastic. Who pays the $1 trillion? Actually, I believe it's $1.6 trillion. Who's going to pay for that? Elizabeth Warren just came out with an idea also to grab headlines. And she's saying that everyone who's gay, who's married, legally married in the states that allow it, that they should get a refund on their taxes for before it was legal for them to be married, they should get a tax refund. Who's paying for that? And then you know what? That's the least of the problem. Literally, the least of the problem is the fact that they're going to go back in time and say, hey, you can get a refund. If that was the only problem, because it's about what? How much is it?
$57 million.
$57 million. Who's that by? Who said that?
The Joint Committee on Taxes, I believe.
Joint Committee on Taxes says that's about estimated to be $57 million for retroactively giving same-sex couples who are legally married in their states the ability to go back and amend their IRS taxes.
It's the Joint Committee on Taxation. Yep.
Joint Committee. I'm not so worried about the 57 million because we spend trillions a year. It's $4 trillion the government spends. We have $1 trillion in debt pretty much every year for the last almost 2 decades. So that's not the big deal. 57, it's an accounting error when you're talking about trillions of dollars. It really is. I don't care about that. The problem isn't that, although it's still extra money. If you pay taxes, and half the people who are watching this, half the nation, does pay taxes, so you're the ones who are going to pay more for this. But more importantly than that is if you can change one law and retroactively benefit someone, you can change any law retroactively. Now, I'm going to leave that here on the live show. We're going to continue taping this for a little bit because I want to get into this because it's a big deal. And it will be on YouTube and you'll be able to see it. But we need to talk about this because this is a big deal. But we're going to let you go. This is, we're done with our live here on the Exceptional Conservative Network. This is no sound bites allowed. We're going to be back on Wednesday, and we have our live review of the 2020 Democratic debate for the nominees. And we're going to be live streaming that. It'll be John the intern, a couple of other millennials, and the old man here going to be talking about this. And we'll see. It should be quite interesting to see the differences of opinions about all the different things that are going to be talked about. Hopefully we'll have a Democrat or two in there as well. So we have a balanced group tossing back and forth what we think about what they're saying. So we're looking forward to it. And until then, I want you to be well. And keep an eye out for the continuation of this conversation on our next, which we're going to be having out on YouTube very shortly. So see you again soon.